it's a kind of a little bit about me and about the team that we've got on it. So I'm head of media, PR and sports care. And one of the big things that we do is we also look after all the internal communications, all the external communications. We also look after all the support interactions. So people when they phone up the building, or phone and ask questions, so those are kind of big areas, overall type of things. So from looking at the media teams to cover off with, one of the big things we're trying to do is liaison and work with all our kind of campaigns, communications, stuff. We're trying to get that out to the press with press releases, diary notices, and all those other elements. As a kind of goal for us, is we're very keen to make sure that we actually reach out and engage with as many people as possible. And that means our supporters, and it means really valuing our supporters and trying to change our ethos to making sure that we look at our supporters instead of being 250,000 people, one of which is Joe Smith, who is a member of the 75 seats, which is 20 quid a month. You look at Joe Smith as being a teacher with 2 children who has got an interest in these particular areas that might be helpful for Amnesty, that might actually be able to add something to Amnesty, and also to listen to what they have to say. And for me, that's really important because I'm looking at a whole load of volunteers that recently, hopefully you guys got engaged in Amnesty because you looked at that room and we're looking at you with different skill sets, the different things that you can actually add to the organisation, and that's how I view all of our supporters. My job in the media is to support care teams to try and make sure that all those people have the opportunity to engage with us and to be part of what we're doing, the journey that we're going on. So one of the big things, I know that we talked about this being sidelined, looking at where we are in school. We've just come back of a football film festival that happened in Hackney, and that was an example of doing exactly that. Because what we were looking at, we looked at, it's brilliant, is that most people, for us as an organisation, we've had historically engagement with the front half of the paper. So with all this kind of new stuff, that's where Amnesty is quite strong. And then we've got some bits about celebs, and so we've got a little bit of liaison with celebs. And there's a bit of business, we do a bit of business human rights. But this bit, we've got much on. This is like a third of your paper, it's on sport. And you go, well, why should we be involved in sport? What's sport got to do with human rights? But look at the impact of Qatar, construction workers, Brazil, on this brutality that's going on in Brazil at the moment. If you look at Bahrain, with the issues that are happening there, and equally all of these venues are in places that increasingly countries with bad PR want to have big sporting events because it makes them look better. Which is probably why Qatar are going for it, it's why Russia have gone for it, it's why Jerusalem's bidding for it to be a venue for Euro 2020. So you have all of these issues, and that's us in a situation where we should start engaging people back into the paper, if you like, sports fans, to get more involved in human rights issues that are around on those issues. So this football film festival was our first time we actually really went and started looking at these particular issues. This is a classic example of that sort of engagement, trying to reach out to people that we think are interested in human rights, but we haven't engaged with them before because we've ignored that whole section of the paper. And that's how we're really developing. So we have meetings on Saturday night. We were there at Canterbury, so ex-footballer who was there. We met with the leading organisations of discrimination in football, we met with Fair, we met with big national football sports organisations, Sports Federation, Sports Direct. There were also organisations representing cricket, representing rugby. So we got to say that this was for us our engagement to say we need to do something, we need to actually make a framework for all these national sporting organisations to adopt to say human rights matters in that. So this is a kind of real classic bit of work that we're doing. Classic synergy between what we're doing with our supporters engagement as well as doing work with the media to try and get into that. That's kind of what we think. It all goes down to there are all these individual people out there that have these expertise that can really help us. So we're doing this big engagement saying like, okay, we might not necessarily be area of expertise in sport, but we know that people out are and they're helpful with us in Amnesty. We know with Transparency International doing corruption in football, and they were there as well. So it's all this kind of grouping, getting things together. So that's kind of where I look I know you mentioned you were involved in the major donors side, so there were some major donors that were also in that room. And major donors particularly, we need to think about what they're interested in, how are we going to engage with people, how are we going to reach out to them, we should feel closed off to ideas. And I'm a firm believer in people coming out in any part of the organisation that will have the best idea. So it's not just me to the media and therefore what I say goes. It's not. It's you as volunteers thinking you actually should feel empowered to say, right, I've got a brilliant idea, there's a project that I'm particularly interested in, or an area of work I'm particularly interested in, and go for it. And I'll ask those questions, feel free to say, right, I can actually add value to this, make a change, I can do something that's really going to fundamentally make a difference in human lives, which is what we're all here for. And you all have, you all have that, you should feel free to engage. And that's, I think, hopefully the message you'll get from a number of people when you bring through these really your lunchtime chats and you're able to sit here and not be there. That's kind of where I'm at. Any questions?
Do you just mean that thing?
It's finished. But because for us it was a launching point, so
You want to make it one?
that actually since we started that's the launch for us. Previously done loads of stuff in an ad hoc way, so we've responded to what's happening in Bahrain, we did stuff in Beijing, in the case when they were there. There's never been a coordinated work, or a coordinated plan, or an ask, which is looking for these national sporting organisations to adopt a human rights framework, for countries to be considered human rights impact of if they're going to want to bid for anything going to a World Cup or a Grand Prix.
Is it more we'll have to sort of
it's really
people alert?
It's really weird. There are interactions going on that we're doing in Brazil now. It's a really weird one in terms of the media cycle, in terms of the news cycle. Until tomorrow, human rights and what's happening in Brazil is firmly on the agenda and is firmly part of the news agenda. From tomorrow, the football starts. And historically, we can go back to what happened in London 2012, what happened in South Africa in 2010, and all the other major football tournaments. Our area of influence exists until the moment those games or that competition starts. From tomorrow, we've already seen it, and in terms of our news coverage, we monitor our news coverage. Our news coverage was phenomenal before this weekend. After the weekend, it's starting to drop because papers are going to be full of Brazil World Cup. Much as you may or may not want that, that's basically it. So we're going to be really struggling to get into the media. Historically, that's always been the case. So we try and wrap up all our human rights work and our issues and concerns in those countries and those elements right before the games start. Once the games start, we've tried historically before. It's basically been impossible because you also get accused of being a killjoy because we're not saying we don't like football. We're not saying we don't like the Olympic Games. We do like the Olympic Games. We do like football. We like our football and our Olympic stars to stand up and stand. But during that period, it's so difficult to get any coverage. So we put a lot of our effort into the force right to this weekend because we knew this was our last chance to really get it. Because we've got loads of sports news correspondents out in Brazil right now. There's no football happening, so they're writing about the news around it. And there were over the last week or 2 weeks, whatever it is. Come tomorrow when the opening ceremony starts with Brazil play Croatia. One of the big things for me was the reaction from all those groups that I mentioned, which was, a lot of it was, we should have done this a long time ago. We should have started engaging with these groups. They are working, there are a number of small charities, and the issue that we understand is a very big family. We run the risk of destroying or whatever. But what we've said is actually we want a coalition of all these people. We want to strengthen those avenues and those networks to make sure that they can all do something. Because groups like Beyond Borders, which is a really good charity that looks at encouraging raising human rights concerns through football and all over the world, but they're very small and their capacity is tiny. So we look at strengthening it. It's going to be human rights effectively, like we would do, say, Israel, we might back a small NGO that's working in that particular area to strengthen them up and to raise their concerns and get working with them. So the same now goes with Beyond Borders, with out in the UK, looking to raise how we can help them add value to them, because the work they're doing is invaluable to their life. So that's kind of where we're going. We're looking to, say you've got to capacity. We can say if you come together with Beyond Borders, the International Trade Union Congress, other groups that are there, you actually can say, well, you've got the capacity to do that press release, to do that post that event. We do it jointly, we have bigger impact. So you can say we take your, 2 hours of your press officer's work that can help with all of this work, and actually we raise the profile a little bit. If we take 6 hours of your policy person from the International Trade Union Congress to help develop the work that we're doing with Peter here, then we can actually devise what that framework looks like and make sure that we're not missing anything, which is the work that we began doing this week. Probably better there is to talk to the major donors elements to see what kind of interest they had from the back of the event that we just held. It's a little bit difficult because we haven't started that tracking process yet with fundraising. We can monitor how donations go to Brazil, where the actions get carried through there as well. I mean, hopefully we can do it that way. Not looked into it as much as I should do. It's a brand new area of work. Literally, we have a list of priority campaigns or projects that we look to, and this got approved as a priority project 2 weeks ago. My experience. It's a big variance in terms of, again, it's like, we talk about, these are our supporters, we want them to be like, £25 whatever. So that's the same, they're all individuals, so it's difficult to plug them all into one group. So some are really flaky and aren't really worth much at all, and others will come and stand and do loads of stuff for us. So it's a big variance. It's describe them all as one group. It's difficult. In terms of what they do for us, because it's very hands-on, the event on Saturday was a real big success. It might not be immediate, the success was a bit. The success was the fact that his presence meant that loads of those groups that I wanted to include were in the room. So you go, I love Eric Hansen, I want to be at this event. So they're all in the event, and actually meant I got to talk to all these kind of key groups there, and they were meant to talk to each other, and there was a buzz. I hope they all come because I was who's organising it, but the reality is, by having Eric Hansen in the room, they definitely. So it meant we had all these people that were like, oh, fantastic, this is something that people are taking seriously, as well. So that's where it comes from. So we used it more in that sense as an advocacy, getting the right people in the room at the right time. So I think that was the big success of the event. Other people say, yes, we raised profile, yes, we reunited the mark. For instance, we phoned the Premier League, asked him to spin on and said some sexist comments, and we asked him to come in. So we had lovely emails saying, really sorry, we can't to read back of it, which is great. But they knew as soon as we picked up the phone about cyclones that Amnesty's work in sport human rights. That's such a huge amount because it meant that we made that breakthrough because there was obviously natter behind the scenes about people talking about what we were doing. So I think it's been really big success.
I saw the announcement of that just do you think you're going to do it like things? It's quite a big thing, isn't it?
Doing such a festival takes an awful lot of effort. And organising it all takes an awful lot of effort. I don't think we'll do it next year, we might do it in 2 years' time, I don't know, we'd like to see. Because we've also had previously done work with comedy, and it's comedy this year, so we're writing comedy next year, so it's, we might rotate it, I don't know, to see how it goes. But certainly engagement with sports guys is now
How great is Eric Cantona?
How great was Eric Cantona?
Yeah, you know,
He was.
he's amazing, isn't he?
We did a Q&A, and he was basically a practical joker. The person doing the Q&A was basically probably her toughest interviews in conversation with. So 400 people in the audience, Eric Cantona on the stage, taking questions from one of our press officers who's not, knows the stuff, hasn't met Eric before, and he was basically being awkward, but deliberately so, in a kind of funny way. He got lots of people, he was being like, oh, just doing, sometimes doing one word answers, sometimes going on a massive tangent. His brother was also on the stage and helped make some documentaries with Eric, and he was doing selfies, taking pictures of the crowd, doing stuff like this, just totally disrupting the whole interview process. I mean, it was very funny and very engaging, but I mean, he was good. He was a good guy to meet.
Eric Cantona, right?
Yeah. What was great is there was a Palestinian footballer that was in jail that was also there on the event that night. And Eric Cantona had signed a letter asking for his release. And it was the first time they met. It was at that night. And that was brilliant. They just had a massive hug. It was like, oh, you do these some things that are right. So that was a really good one. Anything else? Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I'm happy to do more of these. I won't count, I won't cause you grief or whatever, I promise it to be late.